Playing from Maratib Mac Mini.
Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everywhere, wherever you are live with me or you are watching the recording. Welcome to our online course today, and week 4 today we are going to explore and learn on a very fundamental topic of idea of good and bad, which we really have messed up, or we have more unclear about what is good and bad in a realistic way, and that's why we are going to learn about in week 4, and that is important because it directly linked with myself, it directly linked with yourself, because the definition of good and bad is directly linked my own uh, teaching on educational stuff, on perception, thoughts, and therefore I'm going ahead in my life based on how I'm defining good and bad, and that directly linked with my own soul, my own mind, my own body, and therefore it helps me to identify myself, who truly I am. And that's the whole point of the course, that we are in 7 or 8 weeks we are trying to explore different key dimensions of our own existence, and trying to know that who I am, who you are, rather than we can misinterpret and live the whole life and go to at my deathbed without knowing who I was. And there was only thing left, um, just guilty, um, just miserable thinking about myself. Oh, how I was silly. Oh, how I was foolish, that the whole life I didn't know that who I was, and I was drifting by my society. I was drifting my relationship around me, and I did not focus on, I did not contemplate to knowing myself. Therefore, I lived not a very great life, and now I'm I will be no more in few days, few months, because I'm on a deathbed. So, so therefore, we have to. This question is very important, and that's directly linked with my own identity. So, I'm your host, Maratib Ali Shad, and I will be helping you. I will be facilitating you some reading key text from the book of Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth. Uh, and that book is mind blowing and very key in order to knowing not only yourself but also to the other world. So if you don't know me, and then I want to tell you I'm running a couple of different things on internet. One of the thing is my YouTube channel. You can subscribe, and you can uh, comment on different videos as well, where you will find a lot of life changing content as well, or my last many classes as well, which I organized on Zoom and on Facebook as well. At the same time, you can read my blog website, which is maratibalishad.com, where I write mostly content on personal development, relationships, um, understanding the self, and spirituality, and many more. So let's come back to our today's online course, and we are in week 4. So just going into week 4, in few seconds I want to just remind that what we did cover in last 3 weeks. In week 1 we learned about truth of ignorance, and where we basically learned ourselves that more we have a knowledge in terms of in this world, more we are ignorant, and we were or we are away from the truth, because we do not have capacity and courage to contemplate and challenge our existing belief. And therefore, we always in a falsehood. We live in a falsehood and we think that we are in reality and we know reality. And that is very close to my own identity, who I am. Then week two, we learn about that we did try to learn who we are. We are body, we are either we are soul, or either we are mind, or either we are atoms, molecules, cells. Either we are something beyond which I don't know. So we did try to define ourselves, but we come across on the conclusion that rather than to define myself, I must know what I am not. So we actually did learn in week two who I am not. And that is very important, because what I am not, that is more important to know who I am, because who I am cannot be defined uh, because of so much complexity, because of nature of our being. We cannot define it. We cannot have definition of ourselves, but we know that what we are not, and that is more important. And that we did learn in week two. And week three, which was a last Sunday, we learned a lot of things related to abundance mentality, impact on myself, where we learn also a lot of things related to personality assessment, and are the personality assessment and so many IQ tests and so many other interviews are enough to know who I am. And also we did learn that there are disorder in the world and there are order in the world, but we mostly perceive the world as a disorder, and therefore we have a um negative perception about the world, especially when we go into the jungle. So we think that the jungle is a messed up place, but actually it's not, because it's a part of the whole nature. And if we see and broaden our spectrum of consciousness, so we will start to praise jungle, because jungle or forest is a very meaningful place. And the same thing, any complexity which we perceive in our world is very meaningful, but we have to broaden our spectrum and focal length of our consciousness. Then we will understand that the chaos which we always indulge with is actually not the chaos. It's a part of the bigger picture, because we focus or we see only the one pixel of the photo. We are unaware, or we are illiterate about the whole photo. That's why we have a very poor perceptions about the reality. That did we learn as well. Today we are going to learn in next half an hour about good and bad, and especially the relationship of myself in order to good and bad. Uh, and that is very valuable for me. Uh, so, before going to good and bad, I just want to say and read a quote from Eckhart Tolle's one of the another book about who I am, because all ultimate we are exploring I am. So the quote of Eckhart Tolle starts with the very simple sentence. Quote start, inverted comma start, the ultimate truth of who you are in not I am this or I am that, but I am, comma close, inverted comma close, full stop, quote finish. So that's we are trying to understand that we don't have to define ourselves. We don't have to limit ourselves. We are unlimited being. We are absolutely unlimited being. And that limitation um, will make my life limited, and hence I can be in pain and suffering because of my limited uh, mindset about myself. I am unlimited because I just exist. That's I know. But and that is sufficient for me, and that is the ultimate truth. So that's a mind-blowing quotation from thing. Another quotation, quote from the Eckhart Tolle is about defining myself, is very mind-blowing as well. And what is that? The quote start: give up defining yourself to yourself or others. You won't die. You will come to life, and don't be concerned with how other defines you. When they define you, they are limiting themselves. So it's their problem. Whenever you interact with people, don't be there primarily as function or as a role, but as a field of conscious present. Inverted comma, close, full stop, quote finish. So that is amazing. Another uh, uh, definition about ourselves uh, by Eckhart Tolle, which is that we don't have to define ourselves or others. And it is their problem if they are defining or they are limiting themselves or they are limiting you. You don't need to limiting themselves. Yeah. But what you need to understand uh, and know that you are a field of conscious presence. You are present all the time. You are present. You are conscious, and you are being. That's more important. What you can put without any other labels on you. So, with this quotation, I can start our today's reading. Uh, and before we going into the reading, just I want to align your mind with what we are going to learn, good and bad. And if you know this very fact about our life, that the whole life which we are living, or let's say I woke up in the morning, I saw many things, I perceived many people's attitude and behavior, and then after that I did respond to that. And my response to people or event or the view in front of me as label either good or bad is enough. So if that thing which I'm seeing is meaningful, it's look like in order, in my perspective, I will label it as a good. And if it is in disorder, it is something which I don't like, or I don't understand, or I don't agree, based on my own perception, based on my own knowledge, based on my own uh, vision of about that particular thing, I will label as a bad is enough. So that good and bad is very close to myself, because whatever I am thinking good, I will say good. Whatever I'm thinking is bad, and that is going to define all events of my life. For example, I born in that day. It's a it was my birthday. Oh, that's good. I I born in a rich parents' house. Oh, that's a good. Uh, I born in a poor um, parents' house. Oh, it was a bad. I I school. I went into school, prestige school. Oh, that was a good. Oh, I did not go to school because of my poor condition. Oh, that is bad. So, and from my childhood till now, I can interpret, I can label all events, whatever happened, my marriage, my schooling, my college life, my university, my first job, my first boss, my work as an employee, my work as a self-employed. I started my business. I closed my business. My boyfriend, my first girlfriend, my second girlfriend, my second boyfriend, my husband, my wife, my children, my blah. And so, whatever the events I am witnessing, or I was involved, or I am involved, I will label them either good or bad because of myself. That also including any failure I did, or I'm heading towards old age, or any illness, or I'm close to my death, or I'm close to my healthy life, or winning or losing, or blah blah blah. And that is very realistic if we try to say we, and that makes sense according to whatever our world is. And our world, whatever defining the definition good or bad, I will trust and I will live with them, and I will start to believe actually. And we will think, I will think, oh, that's obviously, it's a very natural. If somebody hits someone, it's a bad. If somebody love with someone, it's a good. So what's the wrong? Isn't that? That's a very um, very obvious things. I know many people die, so I will die, no problem. Or many people have a cancer surgery, or many syndrome surgery for removing the syndrome or fixing the syndrome, or a brain tumor, or the person got paralyzed. If any person goes into old age, or any person uh, have any failure, or somebody is theft by someone, or somebody is robbed by someone, somebody is killed by someone. Yeah, that's happening, is all in the life. I mean, and that's understandable, and that could be happened to me. So we basically admit these things, and we label it as a good and bad. Now we are trying to understand in a more deeper way the approach how we are interpreting our life event and series of life event as a good or bad, or where it comes from actually. Is it really good or bad, or it is something fault, is a result of fault in my paradigms, or is it in result of fault of unawareness about knowing myself? Is it? So that's we are going to learn. And before I start reading, I would like to just touch a religious or spiritual thing about Bible. One of the quote in the from the Bible is very important, and that's relevant with our topic for today as well. That the wisdom of this world is folly with God, and that is actually taunt, sarcastically uh, quote, but at the same time, it's a realistic quote as well. Any person who wants to be very wise or intelligent, or show some supremacy, he or she start to um, disrespect God, start to mock of Jesus, start to mock of other holy spirits or other holy people. And we think that we are very realistic, we are very wise, and we start to make joke. I know many people on internet or communities whose aim is only to mock of Jesus or idea of God, and they think that they are the smartest people, they are the smartest community, and they think their whole attitude is very, very pathetic in a broader sense, sir. But this think that they are wise, because they know why to mock God, why to call bad or something about Jesus or about God or about other holy spirits as well. And we are following these people. We are following that world, which is not uh, respectful towards the creator of themselves, who gave them the consciousness, who gave them all things in the world, or even the intelligence to think uh, about what are happier things or what are bad things. And right from when they born, the consciousness of God gave them all instinct to live and grow and grow, and give them protection, give them food, shelter. And then eventually after 18 and becoming adult or mature adult, they start to mock the same consciousness, the same God, um, the same Allah, the same whatever you believe on, what type of God, that, and start to mock them, start to deny them, not based on intellectual, but just they don't like God. And that world we are following actually, and that world has defined the good and bad. The main point which I'm trying to make is we take the idea of good and bad from the world, and that world's wisdom, who deny spirituality, who deny the reality of this world, who deny the actually their own existence, and we follow them. And that's very uh, reality is described in Bible as well, in many times, many places actually. This is one of the quotation. So based on this, let's try to read it and see what is good and bad. Uh, and then we don't have too much reading today, but we will try to read uh, it. So I would ask my colleague Jenny if she can start reading, please, and then we can go further.
Good and bad. At some point in their lives, most people become aware that there is not only birth, growth, success, good health, pleasure, and winning, but also loss, failure, sickness, old age, decay, pain, and death. Conventionally, these are labeled good and bad, order and disorder. The meaning of people's lives is usually associated with what they term the good, but the good is continually threatened by collapse, breakdown, disorder, threatened by meaningless and the bad, when explanations fail and life ceases to make sense. Sooner or later, disorder will erupt into everyone's life, no matter how many insurance policies he or she has. It may come in the form of what? It may come in the form of loss or accident, sickness, disability, old age, death. However, the eruption of disorder into a person's life and the result collapse of a mentally defined meaning can become the opening.
Yeah. Um, so if you see about the disorder, we label as a bad usually, and sooner or later that disorder, if it comes in our life, um, and it will start to have our loss as well. And we have a very different approach when we are dealing with these type of uh, things which is happening in a series of event in next 20-30 years in our life, in terms of sickness or disability or or dilemma of old age. uh, I would like to make you a story, that story is very good, and then that story, from that story we will come back to on our real topic. So I would ask Mike, if you can start read this story. That's a very powerful story, very simple story, but it has a meanings in it.
This is illustrated in the story of a wise man who won an expensive car in a lottery. His family and friends were very happy for him and came to celebrate. "Isn't it great?" they said. "You are so lucky." The man smiled and said, "Maybe." For a few weeks, he enjoyed driving the car. Then one day, a drunken driver crashed into his new car at an intersection, and he ended up in the hospital with multiple injuries. His family and friends came to see him and said, "That was really unfortunate." Again, the man smiled and said, "Maybe." While he was still in the hospital one night, there was a landslide and his house fell into the sea. Again, his friends came the next day and said, "Weren't you lucky to have been here in the hospital?" Again, he said, "Maybe."
Thank you. It's a great reading. So if you see this this short story about, that was a wise man, and the same different incidents were happening in the life, but because he was a very wise spiritually, he he interpret not as a good or bad. He actually uh, respond responds with the word maybe, and that is a very good approach. But what generally people, they label as a good or bad, like when he got the car, the people say, "Oh, you are so lucky," it means it's a good. And then when he got accident, they say, "Oh, it's a bad." So good and bad, the people always interpret your life incident as a good or bad. But the wise people, they don't label as a good or bad, because the good and bad possible is a good for you, but bad is for me, or it's bad for you, good is for me. So we cannot believe on good or bad of anything. Rather than we may choose our response as insensitive, or as this is a good word, maybe. So that maybe is an effort to keep away from the idea of good and bad, because if I will say good, let's say, then it means that I'm denying many other things which I may call bad. And that's, I'm thinking the world as a dual I or dual nature, sorry. And dual nature mean we have interpreted our whole world and events and things into in a dual way. And dual way is labeled as a philosophy of duality. And duality means you can't see the things beyond this duality. And you will, uh, if you are indulged in duality, then it means that you will always uh, chasing your tail all the time, and you can't reach the tail. So duality means you will, our language, the how our language, any language has formed, English, French, um, Arabic, Spanish, German, any language, whatever they have developed it, they have developed with duality, that either they are interpreting night or day, big or small, large, small, black, white. And that's, we have opposite of everything. and we cannot think beyond this duality. This is extremely limiting uh, our way of thinking, and it's extremely limiting our language structure, what we do have. So therefore, the language actually play a very significant and original role in order to reshape our pattern of thinking. So, and the language has a good and bad as well. And that label is very strong because we live in this world, and that this whole world is defined as good or bad and stuff like. So that is the powerful illustration in this story from the wise man. Um, and because in this world, the what is the wisdom? Wisdom usually is a thought that has certain meaning. Whatever your mind is telling, giving the meaning is enough. That's a wisdom. Therefore, we have many type of wisdom from many nations, from many authors as well. But when we are thinking about certain event as a bad or good, what happens? Basically, we made it separate from our existence in a deeper sense. And when we separate ourselves from that situation or event, that creates the separateness and the reality of this whole world, that we are not separate from each other. We are all one. We are part of a being, a collective being. But when we are interpreting, oh, that nation is good, that nation is bad, that group is good, that group is bad, that person is good, that person is bad. So by doing so, by thinking so, by calling so, we are separating them from myself. And it means that I'm isolating myself from that thing. And that isolation make you fragmented person, a confused person, frustrated person, because that fragmentation is an illusion in a reality. But this fragmentation is very acceptable in our world. And we think that this is absolutely reality. I mean, if I say he's a good boy or he's a good girl, or uh, let's say China is a good nation, America is a wonderful nation, or that nation is bad, that nation is bad, as that's absolutely right, because I'm saying based on my what it is, isn't it? And that make, and but in reality, in ultimate reality, not the world's reality, this is all illusion. When we label any nation, when we label any other thing and any event as a good or bad, then it means that we are associated our flowful thinking to this as a good or bad, so that we can separate it from me, so that my ego becomes stronger on a personal level, or on a nation level, or on a collective level. And that illusion becomes start of our world's reality. And therefore, whole nation, even the whole nation become trap of it. And they become, for example, there is a big rivalry between India and Pakistan, and both are the nuclear power, both have atomic bomb. And the happier movement of Indian cannot be tolerated by Pakistani people, and any happier movement for Pakistan is not tolerated by Indians. So because they have a illusion that India is bad, or and they have a illusion Pakistan is bad. So when they say that that is bad or that is good, they start to separate them from as a union of people, as the collective human being. So they are dividing the humanness human being into different parts as a good and bad, and that is a big trap in our world as well. The same thing happen with, we can do with many countries. For example, the chaos between Korea and America, the chaos between China and America, the chaos between France and UK, the chaos between all these, because of that illusion, because of that separateness, because of their identity crisis that they try to define when they deny other people, so that they become stronger and they can strengthen their ego. And that very much happens on a person life as well. When I have enemy and I don't like certain people, then my thinking mind will try to label that person as a good person or as a bad person. And based on that good and bad, my ego will have a strength to separate myself from that person. And that separateness, because it's a illusion, that's nothing to do with ultimate reality. And therefore, my ego will always in charge. And when ego in charge, it means I am depressed. I will not be happier, because ego strengthen means the quality of happiness is poor. And that is happening in our world in today as well. So because we all humans and mankind are interconnected, and that is the ultimate reality. And uh, and the good and bad, actually, these type of labels, which is linked with our identity, our own definition, creates a lot of problem for us. So therefore, we have to be very careful about that thing, because these deeper interconnectedness of all things and events that we label them of good and bad is uh, related to illusion. They all are ultimately illusionary things, and that is a ultimate reality which we are learning. So, and uh, uh, and that is a mind-blowing learning for our class today about good and bad. And uh, this story which Mike just has learned uh, and read as well, that is very giving a message about why we should not interpret as a good or bad. So therefore, we only can uh, become a whole human being, or as a union of mankind, human mankind, or even other being as well, when we avoid these type of idea of good and bad, um, in that sense. And that's a mind-blowing concept which we just learned. So I would ask also read a couple of texts related to this, and then we have a short story, and that will conclude in our today's session as well. So I would ask Cynthia if she can start reading these couple of quick paragraphs about judgment. Uh,
The wise man's maybe signifies a refusal to judge anything that happens. Instead of judging what is, he accepts it and so enters into conscious alignment with the higher order. He knows that often it is impossible for the mind to understand what place or purpose a seemingly random event has in the tapestry of the whole. But there are no random events, nor are there events or things that exist by and for themselves in isolation. The atoms that make up your body will were once forced inside stars, and the causes of even the smallest event are virtually infinite and connected with the whole in incomprehensible ways. If you wanted to trace back the cause of an event, you would have to go back all the way to the beginning of creation. The cosmos is not chaotic. The very word cosmos means order. But this is not an order the human mind can ever comprehend, although it can sometimes glimpse it.
Thank you. It's a great reading. So there is a very deep message in that reading, which just Cynthia has read. Let's try to understand with our mind who I am, with our mind. At the moment, I'm saying with our mind. So let's try to do. I'm as a person. Yeah. Okay. I have a body. You can see my hand. You can see my face, head, body, legs, and arms, chest, and everything. And that is I am. And I think I am that thing. Right. Okay. Where these all comes from? All come from when I eat something, right? From right when I born in my mommy's tummy, I was growing, and before delivery, I was still existing in my mom's tummy, and and how she found me? She found me through her eating, what the mother is eating, thinking, drinking, that all becoming part of the body of that fetus, that very immature baby inside the tummy, right? And since then, when my mother delivered a baby, which I was, and from there she fed me, she gave me milk, she gave me, she looked after me, and from where these all food is coming, from where all water or milk was coming, from where air will coming, air, the in the environment which I breathe, from this breath, from where it is coming? It is coming, all this coming from my home? No. From my town? No. From my city? No. From my country? Maybe. From my geographical region in the whole on the planet? Yeah, maybe. Or from the whole planet? Yes. Yes, from whole planet, because the food, the air, the milk, the vegetables, meat, my snack, my air through which I breathe, all comes from all over the world. My bread comes from France. My milk maybe come from other country. My water which I'm drinking, it is manufacturing in another country, and my country is facilitating. My whole biological body which is forming is coming from many other countries. And from these countries, where these come from? Who are manufacturing these things? From other countries. And from these countries, from the manufacturers, take these things from where they take these old food or seeds from other countries. So the whole planet is involving in my growing. The whole planet and almost every part of the planet is contributor in making my biological body. then how I can claim that I am separate from India? How I can claim that I am separate from China? How I can claim that I am myself, I'm away from America? No, not at all. We all are interconnected. Every energy, every food, every air, the sip of water is all we are sharing with each other, one another, one country to another, one community to another. We are moving, we are. So what you becoming arrogant? Why you have so much ego? You are not feeding from yourself, from your own production. We all are interdependent. And that interdependency means we all are one. We all are mankind. So there is no good and bad anything. That good and bad is just an idea to make your ego stronger and the other person or other nation inferior, or other people's life is unimportant and your life is more important. That's only I'm making this distinguish. But if we see the whole world, and even from the away from the whole planet Earth, if we go to see the world in terms of solar system and galaxies and black holes and all, imagine what is wrong in the whole cosmology. Nothing. So more we will limiting our mind with good and bad labels, the more chaos will be, we will involve it, and we will make a mess in the world. Do you remember when the Siddhartha Gautam Buddha came in this world? Almost 5,000 years ago. And he born as a prince in the king house, king palace, right? And then when he grew up and at the age, when he became adult, he left the palace and he went into the jungle, because and where he come across that this whole world is full of pain and this whole world is full of suffering. 5,000 years ago, not recently. So this pain and suffering will remain exist beyond from the world, any age where we quote usually, and that suffering and that pain has a root cause of good and bad. Because we have divided the whole world into categories, into labels, and mostly the biggest label is a good, bad at least. And that even we made it more worse, that we categorize the world into God and evil as well. But the reality is evil does not exist. Evil is only exist in your mind. It exactly like the same thing that darkness does not exist. You know that the darkness does not exist. Why? Because it does not exist. Then why there is a darkness? Because lack of light. When the light goes away, that we call darkness. But darkness itself does not have any existence. What is coldness? Coldness does not exist. There is no coldness in the world. Then why there is a coldness? Because lack of heat. If you will make the temperature colder, cooler, and or away from the temperature or hotness, there only you will feel coldness or coolness. But coolness does not exist actually as a substance, just a label, and we label it. The exactly the evil does not exist actually when we go away from our consciousness, when we start to incline ourselves towards our mind, our ego thinking mind, then evil start to appear, just like a darkness, just like a coldness. And that is the ultimate reality. But if I will try to label as this ego, this darkness as a real existence thing, as a bad, then what a silly person I am. Because of too narrow spectrum through which I am perceiving the world. So that is the dilemma of our human intelligence in order to understand the things which we label as a good and bad. Let's try to read this a true story uh, of the Zen master Hakuin, amazing, who lived in the town in Japan. So I would ask Jenny if you can read this a quick and story, and someone I would ask Cynthia or Mike if you can explain as well this story, what you have understood from this story quickly, just briefly. But Jenny can read it for us, please.
Is that so? The Zen master Hakuin lived in a town in Japan. He was held in high regard, and many people came to him for spiritual teaching. Then it happened that the teenage daughter of his next door neighbor became pregnant. When being questioned by her angry and scolding parents as to the identity of the father, she finally told them that he was Hakuin, the Zen master. In great anger, the parents rushed over to Hakuin and told him with much shouting and accusing that their daughter had confessed that he was the father. All he replied was, "Is that so?" News of the scandal spread throughout the town and beyond. The master lost his reputation. This did not trouble him. Nobody came to see him anymore. He remained unmoved. When the child was born, the parents brought the baby to Hakuin. "You are the father, so you look after him." The master took loving care of the child. A year later, the mother remorsefully confessed to her parents that the real father of the child was the young man who worked at the butcher shop. In great distress, they went to see Hakuin to apologize and ask for forgiveness. "We are really sorry. We have come to take the baby back. Our daughter confessed that you are not the father." "Is that so?" is all he would say as he handed the baby over to them.
Thank you. It's a great reading, but it's a very learnful and deep message in this. So if somebody can explain very briefly in few lines, maybe Mike or Cynthia, otherwise I can explain it as well.
Well, this story is the same as the first story by the responses, because the first story said, in parentheses, maybe, and then when he responded, it was maybe. So I think that this is the same thing.
Yeah.
In the response.
Yeah.
That it's a question, it's like they're actually saying, really?
Yeah.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's the same. Has a moral conclusion, which we just earlier Mike read the story about that. Where is that? Where is that gone? Yeah, that one, which in which he won the luxury car in a lottery, and he said maybe. Exactly the same thing is. Look, that person Hakuin, what the blunder that girl or that parent have done in the life. Look at how he lost all his follower. The people were coming to him for life problems, all left that Zen master. And because of the huge allegation, she put that he was the father uh, of her child. But he did not say anything. And he just say, is that so? And it did not move him. He remained unmoved. Can you believe that what the conscious level he will have on that time? Even when after a year, when old story um, changed completely, and the parents found actually the real father, still when he they took the child back, he still say, is that so? It did not bother him. So he looked after the child for 1 year as well, which he was never be a father of that child. He took care of that child like a real dad. Even he, that was not the child. If I would be that guy, if I would be that person, and somebody just bother me for something, will I have a courage to stop myself? Do we have a spiritual strength for this? Look at our world, entirely opposite of that incident of Zen master, which Eckhart Tolle has mentioned his in story. We respond, we cry, we are reactive on a small things. My husband told me something, I become so reactive. My wife just says something, I will full reactive. My child says certain something, I will become a full reactive. My colleague did something wrong with me, I will become for revengeful. Look at the level of our conscious in our worldly life, where we divide the whole world into good and bad. Nobody has dared to call me something uh, beyond my uh, expectation. I will see him, or I will see her. Such a selfish world we are living, and we can see what the level of spirituality we have in our world. And that's the whole point of this also course, because we don't know who we are. We think that we are a packet of emotions, and if somebody's say good thing for me, then I will smile. If somebody say something bad, which I call it bad, then I will cry, or I will become sad, or I will be reactive. That's how we have interpret and divide our world. And that's how myself will be with me. And therefore, every world, every person, whether they're born in a palace or whether they're born in a hut, all are in suffering and pain because of this too narrow level of consciousness, because of that stronger ego mind driven life as well. And that is absolutely directly linked with my own identity, which I'm close with. So let's try to read the same thing in the context of good and bad from another great author. He was from India, Krishnamurti. He was a philosopher. I'm sure one of you may heard about him or I mean watched his video. He also mentioned the same thing about so if you can start the reading, I would ask Mike if you can start reading this one, 2 paragraphs left.
J. Krishnamurti, the great Indian philosopher and spiritual teacher, spoke and traveled almost continuously all over the world for more than 50 years, attempting to convey through words, which are content, that which is beyond words, beyond content. At one of his talks in the later part of his life, he surprised his audience by asking, "Do you want to know my secret?" Everyone became very alert. Many people in the audience had been coming to listen to him for 20 or 30 years and still failed to grasp the essence of his teaching. Finally, after all these years, the master would give them the key to understanding. "This is my secret," he said. "I don't mind what happens." He did not elaborate, and so I suspect most of his audience were even more perplexed than before. The implications of this simple statement, however, are profound.
Thank you. It's a great reading. So my identification of myself and how I will respond to the things happening around me, it just can be failed by considering that secret of Krishnamurti, that philosopher. I don't mind what happens. Because whatever that happens, if I don't label it as a good or bad, then I will be safe. Or that the same idea is, or same fact of letting go idea as well, which I also, we learned a couple of weeks or months ago as well, that how the letting go philosophy is so important to managing our emotions. And that is a profound thing, because when I don't mind what happens, what does that imply? And it implies that internally, I'm in align with what happens. And what happens, of course, refer to suchness of this moment, which always already as it is. So to be in align with what it means to be in relationship of inner non-resistance with what happens. It means not to label it mentally as a good or bad, but to let it be. You see how it would be a great thing. So labeling as a good and bad is a troubling thing, and that we have to avoid. And you can make the situation in your favor, which when you will not respond to it, you will not bother it. Have you ever seen in many moments in your life when you don't bother, or when you let go other people from that particular situation, it just a momently you ignore it, or you don't respond it, or you become insensitive, nothing happens. That is the why the reactive people always gather the lot of troubles in the world, because they always reactive, they always respond, and whatever they is happening around them, they become so sensitive. We are in fears, we are in phobias, because that very much problem leads to physical illnesses as well. Because when we say something is bad, then it means it is scared. It is a scary thing because it's a bad. And when that bad thing, when we call snake as a bad, when we call the poisonous insect as a bad, then we will start to scare with it. And that scareness will be indulged within me. And if I don't become very psychotic, I will be okay. Or at least will be psychotic. But if it will become extreme, then I will be a psychological patient. I need a medical treatment in a mental hospital or in a mental clinic. I have to go. This scaredness, this overreaction from something, which I call it bad. And that does not last only the poisonous animals or snakes type of, or insects or spider type of thing. That also bad labels we put lot of times on relationship. Many people who get admission in mental clinic or rehabilitation centers, they have problems with other people because the other people in their eye are villain, bad, notorious, hypocrite, stupid. These labels, when we give them and we live with them, or we at least come across on a daily basis, then they start to rule on your mind. They make you psycho. So who is allowing this thing to over and occupy your mind with them, with their fears, because of your labels? Because your mind love to label bad or good on other people. And the very same thing, that when it spreads, like it spreads fire in the jungle, then it becomes the part of psychology of the nation as well. And therefore one nation start to hate other nation. Do you know that if any, let's say any Pakistani person, if they enter into India, what the treatment of Indian people they can do with this? Because that Pakistani is a bad and with many labels for an Indian, he or she will never survive in India because of this label. Exactly the same thing if any Indian will come Pakistan, and how the people will treat with that Indian, with so much enmity, with so much hatred, with so much revenge, with so much labels they have put. And that nowadays happening with all nation. And why one nation or one country war with other? Because of very much these things. Because for me, that nation is bad. So I have a right to invade the war on that country. I have a right to do attack on that. I will prepare my army. I will buy a lot of missiles. I will try to get more energy, bombs and technologies, so that my military will be very strong and I can attack on that country, or at least I can defend if they attack on me. You see how this idea of good and bad spreads from your own self and project on your outer world on a nation level? And the dilemma is, even the people who introduced or who brought these ultimate truths to the world about this consciousness, about not labeling good and bad, they even indulge in this good and bad thing. I'm talking about Chinese, I'm talking about Indians, I'm talking about those people who have a rich heritage in spirituality and who know the more truth of the world than the other part of the truth relatively. They are indulging in war and hatred as well in today's world, unfortunately, on a nation level. Who claims to be the prosperous or the truth lover or the peace lover of the world, and who wants to uh, spread enlightenment on the planet Earth, they involved in war and hatred and sense of egoistic action on a nation level as well. Then what will be the impact of this egoistic mind on those nations who do not believe on this type of conscious thing or reality of life or enlightenment or spirituality or religion or God or spirit or consciousness or blah blah blah? So that is the dilemma of our today's world. And that's why it's so important to know that the good and bad definitions and leaving the other things upon this. So the last paragraph for today's, and then we will close it, and keeping the story of that Zen master, Hakuin, we have some quick things to understand and note down on the as a notes. And I would ask Jenny if she can read it, and then we can finish our today's class.
The master responds to falsehood and truth, bad news and good news in exactly the same way. Is that so? He allows the form of the moment, good or bad, to be as it is, and so does not become a participant in human drama. To him, there is only this moment, and this moment is as it is. Events are not personalized. He is nobody's victim. He is so completely at one with what happens that what happens has no power over him anymore. Only if you resist what happens are you at the mercy of what happens, and the world will determine your happiness and unhappiness. The baby is looked after with loving care. Bad turns into good through the power of non-resistance. Always responding to what the present moment requires, he lets go of the baby when it is time to do so. Imagine briefly how the ego would have reacted during the various stages of the unfolding of these events.
Thank you. It's a great reading. So imagine that the incident which happened with that Zen master, not only one incident, series of incidents happened, but his response was ideal and real. And he did turn the bad into good with the power of non-resistance. Isn't it? So imagine that girl when she came and her parents came and say, "Oh, you are a father of our grandchild. You are a father." And if that would be an ordinary person, what it could be, how reactive that person would be against that girl or against that. He will go to the court, or first they will be or go very angry and will start maybe physically approach with each other. How dare you call me me dad of this. I'm not dad of, your daughter is this, like this. And then maybe that problem would go to the police, and then court, and then that a series of another troubles and bad things would be started. Is enough. But how that person's behavior, that Zen master behavior, turned the bad into his own favor through power of non-resistance. And that is the message of our 2 days. That if you think that you are a victim of your husband, of your wife, or of your parents, or you are a victim because of your ethnicity, or your where you belongs to, that all power you have, if you have a power of non-resistance. We have to remove that resistance and live naturally, then the whole situation will go in your favor effortlessly, like exactly which master have done. Imagine after that event, when everybody who left that master, that he had a bad character, when they come across that, oh, he was not actually, that was the plotting or the lie of that girl against master, that he was a father of that child. Imagine how trust must have built with many hundreds of thousands of people for master. Then before, maybe before that incident, many people were inquiring, oh, that Zen master is a good or bad, or what the level of good or bad, we don't know. But now everybody will know that he was the person of integrity. He was the person of values, of power of non-resistance. And that's the very thing happened also when Jesus Christ was tortured mercilessly by those people. But he was believing in non-resistance. And Jesus made the history which nobody could do. And we now, after even thousands of years, when he was hung on cross, we still have billions of lovers of him because of his non-resistive power of spirituality against tyrant people. Jesus turned the whole situation, bad situation, into good forever, till the next time when time will finish, then it will finish. That's the power of non-resistance. That's the power of letting go. That's the power of be calm and cool, live with conscious. And the same thing was also happened when the Prophet Muhammad was tortured by people of Meccans, when he started to spread the word of God, and the people start to torture him a lot, but he never turned back with the bad intention with the people, that they, even he was thrown the pebbles and stone on the Prophet Muhammad. But he was prayerful, and he never have any feeling of revenge against people who were against him, because of non-resistance, with the power of consciousness. So that's our important week for the idea of good and bad, and how we see the world and events happening around in my life and in other, and how it impact with my identity. That my identity is free from good and bad labels. I will try to avoid to label anything good or bad. And that only possible when we will enlarge the spectrum of our consciousness, when we will start to living through our ego thinking mind. And when we try to less define other people and events and thing, and more categorizing as a good or bad, because we all belongs to our planet Earth. We all are interdependent on each other. We all are one. That's the message of oneness as well. And if we start to realize, and this awareness start to spread across the world, imagine there will be no Indian, no Pakistani, no Chinese, no American, no Korean, no Israeli, no Palestinian. And that all labels will be gone because of that very fact which we just learned about. So I'm marking week number 4 as has gone, and the next week number 5, is another mind-blowing learning we will do, which is related with our own identity, and that is a time. We will try to understand what is time, because like we interpret the whole world and whole things about me and other as a good and bad, and we know that what is how it should be taken. Exactly the same thing about time. What is the time and how it impactful, how it is directly linked with myself. Another great episode and class will be coming. So if somebody has any question or thought or want to share something.
You know, I was thinking about when we were reading about the man that the girl had accused him of being the person, next door that was her baby's father. I
Yeah.
was thinking about how quickly we are to judge one another, where somebody can say, it was him, and then the whole town is like, oh my gosh, and they leave the Zen master and they don't even question him or ask him. They just decide immediately that this man is, guilty as charged, without even getting his side of the story. And how quickly, in life we do believe, where people tell us something that's upsetting, emotionally upsetting. Originally they would react to the fact that, this is terrible or whatever. And then they just move straight into that person without ever listening to the other one's side. And I just find that to be something that, we're guilty of. I was just thinking about
Amazing.
that. Mhm.
Very good. Amazing. Your observation about it. Exactly. And that's how our world is designed. We do very little inquiry about from ourselves, and we more follow the people whatever the people are saying, and then we claim that we know the reality. Exactly the same thing you're saying. And that's why the main point with your point is that's why we should bother this world, who gave us such a negative outlook or teachings, and we follow them blindly because we actually don't know how to find or seek truth, or at least support the truth.
We don't even
We
ask, we don't even question, we just take it
absolutely.
for what we're told. And that is a scary thing in
Mm,
society right now, where somebody just gives you information and you react accordingly without asking any questions, without investigating on your own or researching maybe what you've heard. I mean, you have to really, you know, have a mind of your own. And a lot of times, here recently, I think people have a lot of emotional reactions to pretty much everything. And then we lose sight of truth, of real truth, because we don't search for it.
yeah, absolutely. That's very well said. Very well said. Absolutely. So these all chaos and the chaotic environment on a personal level or on a collective level, on a nation level, on a group level, all we have created. We are creator of this all evil, or what we call it evil, or this. But people are coming towards truth. People are coming how we should take now. And our course is a very little effort to expose our acts, um, in understanding to know the reality and awareness of how we should see the people, events in my life, and more importantly, myself, who I am, which is a core question of this inquiry, of this quest of through this class. Amazing, amazing. So next week we will continue our week 5, and we will learn about the next topic related with our identity, our rediscovery of self. So thank you very much. So my name is Maratib Ali Shad. You can join my YouTube channel, subscribe the YouTube channel, and press the bell icon as well for my more videos. I do send every week as well. You can subscribe my blog as well, and you can join me on the social media as well. And once again, I'm really feel honored uh, to facilitate the content with my colleagues, my regular attendees on Zoom and the Facebook, and the people who watch on recording as well. Thank you so much, and I will see you next Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Maratib. Goodbye.
Thanks, Mayor. Bye,
Thank
Jenna.
you.
Bye.
Bye.